money them a tea. And them a sell out the beach. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't for me again. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch a blind and a resort to crime. You can't for me again. Come me say big up all the charities and all of the giver. Some a go like say them powerful, me know me got bigger. The urgent is a visit and them not deliver. Cut up the youth and rough and it's down in our river. Them a bold money and they lie them. Corruption smell and they pocket them smell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell go mash up people start and thief when them sell it on me. What they treat the market man, it on me. What them a treat the cat man, it on me. What they treat the peanut man, it on me. What them a treat the dirt man, it on me. What them a treat the son man, it on me. What them a treat policeman, it on me. How them a treat soldier man.
Good evening, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening, and welcome to Global TV People's Point of View. Good evening, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to those on the live. Good evening to those in the chat. Good evening to those on the X, on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube. Good evening, and welcome. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us, feeling much more alert and awake. Thank you all. Welcome. Bangarang hit the government from all angles. Even if you're here already, and your wholeness, come tonight bearing bad news. Civil service say we catch you weak with your back turned. Weak. You, the people of Jamaica, the corporation of Jamaica, you, the people of Jamaica, or the employer, and those that administrate your government or your employees, such as Nesta Morgan, Minister Sosa Mouth, Minister Bangarang hit him from all angles. We need a sick note. Or, Mr. Morgan, we need you to return to work with immediate effect. Any employee, any employer that is paying an employee and the employee is absent from work, the employee is required to submit a sick note that they are not fit to work, or if some would call it a fitness to work note. So short of that, Jamaicans, you, the employer for the corporation Jamaica, ought to demand, one, a fitness to work note from the Minister of Information, and or two, that he returns to work with immediate effect. That's how the employer-employee situation works in a situation like this, where an employee has failed to turn up for work and has failed to inform the employer as to why they are not at work. Then one should start a disciplinary proceedings. Is it not, Mr. Holness? Given that Minister Bagamouth is bringing Bagawire to a weak government, a government sore, don't know which side to sleep, and a government licking its wound after even ringing bell 2 o'clock in the morning. That said division said, no more of you. Good evening, and welcome. Metap Cataraway. Beat and teach. Good evening and welcome. Good evening to all my moderators. Good evening to all my family members. Good evening to cousin Myrna. Good evening to cousin Jamie. Good evening to brother Roger, brother Karen, sister Faith. Good evening, all, and welcome. Beat and teach. Good evening. Good evening to Sunshine. Good evening, Elaine Turner. Good evening, Jason Kane. Audrey Robson, good evening. Amazing Grace, good evening, good evening. Good evening, all, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening, Beulah, good evening. Good evening to Natalia Freeman, Gloria Morris, good evening. Good evening to Sim Sim. Good evening, good evening. Good evening, Sharon Robson. Good evening to Dorothy White. Dorothy White, good evening. Good evening to Brittany Monio. Good evening. Good evening to Matt Smith. Good evening to Miranda Roddick. Good evening, Vernon Adams. Good evening, Pamela McNeil. Good evening, Liebert Peart. Good evening, Rosemary Samuels. Good evening, Jamaican Foodie. Good evening, Alison Hamilton, VM. Good evening, all, and welcome. DIE's Jerk World, good evening, manners and respect, bro. Marbury Light, good evening and welcome. Stacy, good evening and welcome. Good evening, all, and welcome. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. Carla Hayes, good evening. Michelle Lewis Wilson, good evening. Sharon Powell, good evening. Brenda. Good evening, all. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to cousin Rowan Linda. Good evening to Queen of Sheba. Good evening, Cynthia B. Good evening, all. Thank you all for joining. Sorry, Global Television this evening, where 10 days to go. 10 days to go, Prime Minister Nigel Clark. 10 days to go before Bangarang. Them say we catch you. We catch you weak. And we and you in a public. We and you out here to the Prime Minister. Because we say we catch you. You're weak. And you go one way vote. You're weak, Prime Minister. And you go one way vote. So Bangarang catch you. 10 days to go. 10 days before Bangarang starts to hit a weak government. A government who came out of an election, been picked up and thrown about by a political wildebeest, limping under the shrubberies of politics, licking its wounds. Yes, this government, we're veteran there. I haven't seen veteran agency driver 5, Carlos Gray. Good evening all to you and welcome. A government, a prime minister who's been picked up by a political wildebeest, been thrown all over the political floor, whether they want to own it up or not. Wounded, limped in public, and is now toppled, about to be toppled, Jamaica. Is about to be toppled by the civil service. The Civil Service Association of Jamaica, given a mandate to Nigel Clark. You must resolve or outstanding compensation review. All the articles are in the description area where you can have your own peek through them in your own time. But the Civil Service Association is demanding the government to come back to the negotiation table and resolve this pay dispute. Anne-Marie McFarlane, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining Global Television. And make sure you all like and share the live. Real sweet, good evening and welcome. Make sure you all like and share the live so we can go further out there, please, because a government who have just came out of election, weak, limped, sore, battered at the poll by a political wildebeest, is now about to be toppled by a civil service who is saying, we want our share of that caring economy you're talking about. Since as you go around the country, Prime Minister, boasting how you do well up yourself, we were down yourself, want to bite a hit now. Bangarang about to hit you. Because they say 10 days and we will be going into restivity, disruption, all sort of shun. They will be going into Marcia McKay. So Bangarang is about to hit a weak government who's been caught on the back foot, who going into the election, Ubuntu. Arlene Foster, good evening. Going into the election, the government, likewise the opposition, told you that the polls said that I am way ahead. But given how the election has turned out, whose poll would you say was either misguided or a misinformed narrative given to us in public? But the Prime Minister, the Labour Party, the sitting government came out of this election weak, limped, Angela 48349, battered, and now is about to be toppled by a civil service. Who is saying, Lilith Lockerbie, that we want that thing you went around the country boasting about, that thing that you're going to write a book and put into perspective. We want our share of it. Because you jump around but it dawned on me today, just let me divert a bit. Why is it that the Prime Minister love hark up the money department them? The department them with money afloat around in them office. Remember, the Hag Penmouth one was just left with there. Remember, he was Minister for Works without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister. As to why the Prime Minister have all of these money grabbing, money swelter departments and agencies in his department. It's beyond me. But how much of these civil servants, that is about to tackle the government in the next 10 days? Why is my phone going off like that? Let me put my thing here on silence. That'll disturb me. Where the thing? Sorry, the phone I get palm in nerve with it open pinging and pinging. A government that is about to be toppled by the civil service. I wonder how much of these civil servants voted for this government in the local government election. How much of our teachers, Joya, how much of our teachers, police officers, junior doctors, um, National Water Commission workers, National Work Agency workers, all of these people who have salary grievances with the government, who work in our public offices. Do you think you can withstand not negotiating being this week, Nigel Clark? Do you think you can stand not negotiating? Do you think you're giving an ultimatum to them that take this or nothing else? Do you think that's going to go down well if this is the stance, Nigel Clark? Do you think being so weak in the national polls we've just had, you've been toppled at the national poll? If it was a national election, Mount Golden would have swept the floor with you, given where they're coming from. Do you think you can still have this brave upper shoulder telling them this or nothing else? Let's see how that will show down between you and them, Nigel Clark. Let's see how that showdown. John Pugh, good evening and welcome. Let's see how that showdown will go with a government who have just been defeated at the local polls. A government sitting on the back foot, limping. They are ready to negotiate, Nigel, or within 10 days, they are ready to negotiate and have a resolve on the salary issue. Or within 10 days, Nigel Clark, Bangarang will start to hit you across the civil service. They will decide as they go along how they're going to do it. Whether they're going to protest against you, they're going to become restive, they're going to strike, whatever they're going to do. Dr. Clark, Delroy Henry, good evening and welcome. How are you? Whatever they chose to do, Dr. Clark, it will be up to them going forward because they are 30,000 strong. 30,000 votes, Dr. Clark. Maybe not all of it, but a chunk of that, Verna Shaw. Good evening. Rohan Williams, good evening and welcome. A chunk of that you would be depending on. So let's see, after you've come out of this election, bruised, battered, thrown about the place, is unable even to face the public. A debate, a budget is coming up in the next few weeks. Make sure the whole honor come with bag and bucket, because the Prime Minister will be in a mood to give away a lot in an attempt to repair the wounds suffered by the horn of a political wildebeest at the election. But just like the bell ringing across the country did not work, Prime Minister. Like the bell ringing, we call us great and probably busy. Like the bell ringing across the country did not work. The throwaway that you're about to do in your budget speech, Shaman Carter, good evening and welcome. The throwaway that you're about to do in your budget speech, Prime Minister, even that will not help you, because you're still ignoring those which keep your government working. Your operational team, Prime Minister, your nurses, your teachers, your junior doctors, your all of the people who work in the public service. Those who keep your government going, Prime Minister, is saying, if we don't come talk to it and resolve this salary issue we're having, within 10 days, we're going to start taking action. So if you think nectar under the bushel, if I go dig deeper behind, given that young man bust up him mouth, Precious Adam, bust up him big mouth in a public, send him go sit down, and not just sit down in hiding, probably with high blood pressure. Never have we seen a political weight been toppled and thrown over in public like this. After such powerful, boastful speech, after such a powerful, boastful speech, and be diminished, Nestor Morgan. To be diminished, Minister Diarrhea. Because your mouth just a dribble so, and all of a sudden your mouth dry up. And who stuff cotton in a Nestor Morgan mouth? He look like somebody stuffed cotton. Nestor Morgan, who have the social media responsibility, he's the social media specialist in government. He's the information minister of government, the misinformation minister. And I just want to say on the sideline, to those of you who are defending Dennis Meadows and think that Dennis Meadows have been treated too harshly by Mark Golden, don't you all want to know more about the allegations that Dennis Meadows made in public of money laundering in the Chilani municipality? Alignment to scamming in the Chilani municipality. Those checks from 400,000 to 500,000 to 1.5 million going through the municipality. Wouldn't you all want to hear from Dennis Meadows? Who are the people who are involved in these money racketeering in Chilani? These people who are involved in the chopping and the check cleaning, the cleaning of money, the vote buy. Wouldn't you all want to hear more about that? And if Dennis Meadows has spoken to the police about it, and if Dennis Meadows is prepared to tell the police what he knows about the corruption he alleged in the Toga Hamilton run constituency, I would want to know. I think even if you're defending Dennis Meadows, and if you think Dennis Meadows have been treated too harshly, you should still want to know more about the allegations Dennis Meadows alleged, and whether they're true or not, and whether the police should investigate them. Which video me fi play beat and teach? Sorry, me never cue no video tonight. Tell me which one to play. Let me see if me have it in my library. Which one? Which one beat and teach? But back to a weak government. A government is under passports. A government bruise. Hold on, let me see if I cue it quickly. Which one? The very most recent one? The most recent. Let me play him silly explanation because, boy, we don't know all them tech with say we don't have no sense. I feel we don't have sense. I'll play this first, then the very most recent one.
This is action for principle and integrity.
Principle, integrity. So the statement that went viral, the one that cost you caretakership of North Trelawney, what was going on in your mind when you made that statement, sir?
Good point. It was quite frankly a desperate attempt to rescue a campaign that was corruptly awashed with cash in terms of monetary inducement, buying votes. And in addition to that, the essence of the whole speech, what you saw in the viral, is really a snippet of what the entire speech is about. The context of the speech was, if politicians chopping you, you must chop them back. That was the essence of it. And I think I went too far in terms of making that point. And consequently, I have to take full responsibility. The issue was about, I started out with a $400,000 check that came to me from the Trelawney Parish Council. Right? And the person who brought the check to me to be in cash, whom that 25,000 of that amount was his. It was just a proxy. The rest goes back to the political machinery. And there were myriads of checks like that around coming through the Trelawney Parish Council. Right? So I use it as a basis that, because they were targeting that very core road, the choppers. And my argument was that if you're a chopper, don't allow politicians to chop you. As I said, I had a little drink before, and therefore I went too far. I'm not seeking to justify it.
Yeah, because I want to go back to the actual statement where you said that.
I know what I said. You have to go back to it. I don't want to be reminded of it. The point I said to you, that what in that viral video, that is just a small bit of what was overall in terms of the speech that was made.
So when you said that they've chopped us for years,
yes,
who are you speaking about specifically?
I don't have to repeat that again.
I'm asking you.
Listen to me.
No, I'm asking you, who were you addressing at that time?
I was addressing the choppers.
No, when you say they have chopped us for years,
I put it chopping in a historical context in terms of during slavery, we were exploited. I use the vernacular chopper in its exploitative sense, not in its criminal sense. In terms of
exploitative criminal, whichever sense a sense. But Nerissa, you asked the wrong person, because that would have confused me and a whole heap of we too. That's why the police need to trash out this. Sorry, because he's a legend, and I will play the other video in a bit. He's a legend. That the check which came to him, that check would have been aligned to the Jamaica Labour Party in the municipality. And that money would be going into the political machine. So that bearer is getting 25,000 out of that check, and the other 375 goes back into Tova Hamilton political machinery. This is how I'm understanding it, Nerissa. But Dennis Meadows is under duty to give explanation to these allegations that he made in public. Also, the police is under a duty to explain these criminal allegations of corruption, money laundering, vote buying that Dennis Meadows has alleged. It's important.
Politicians exploiting, you exploit them back.
Remind the audience what CAP is, please.
So this is action for principle and integrity.
Principle.
I want each of you to be an evangelist to take this out. What am I about to say?
I will preach it.
I just left the leader's office.
When the music starts playing, I will pause it to cut out the music for copyright purposes. So bear with me.
I had a meeting this morning with Comrade Leader. And he explained to me why he acted. He did have to explain to me because I am a student of politics and we all are. Yes. Don't it?
Yes.
And therefore understand that when certain things go wrong,
yes,
one has to be held accountable in the interest of the party, Jamaica, and the greater good.
yes.
And that greater good I'm talking about the principles of what is right and what is wrong. What I said, although it was a section of a greater speech,
Yes.
but and as I said to the leader, he asked me if I had a little drinks before. And I said yes. And I did have a few drinks of vodka before.
I know. Yeah.
So in making a point about scammers must scam the government, we're scamming them, the choppers. I went too far in making that point.
Yes.
And one thing you learn as adults,
Yes.
when you do something wrong,
You admit.
you hold yourself accountable.
Yes, sir.
And I accept full responsibility
Yes,
for
sir.
those words that came out of my mouth.
Yes, sir.
I was trying to send a message to the choppers and say, don't allow choppers to chop on it.
Yes.
Right? Don't allow the government to exploit you. Because I saw a check. I saw a check for remember that's how the
Yes,
discussion
that's how it
started.
started. Yes, yes.
A $400,000 check came to me that Friday.
Yes.
Right? In a person's name.
Yes.
And the person came to me to change it.
Yes.
And he told me that 25,000 of that check is his.
Yes. Yes.
And the rest must go back to
Yes. Yeah.
the JLP campaign in the North Carolina. And there were many checks like that. 1.5, 500, you know what.
Sure.
Right? We were operating a campaign that was awash with cash,
It's true.
corruptly spent to induce vote from the very same choppers. And therefore I took a decision to address that issue. But I went awry. I said some things that should not be said,
Yes.
more so out of my mouth.
Right. Right.
And we must take full responsibility.
Yes.
I told the leader that I understood his position, and in fact I commend him for moving with alacrity to hold me accountable. Although I said to him I'd rather have an opportunity to resign. And I was prepared to resign if asked. But he said he wanted us to move quickly. And therefore I slept late. And they were trying to reach me. And therefore he had us to move. And I commend him. Because he suggests that the People's National Party is a party of integrity and principles.
Right.
If I had said the same thing on the other side where I'm coming from, I would have gotten away with it. You hear me? So, Comrade Leader acted the right way.
Right.
I'm disappointed, but I'm not bitter.
Yes.
I remain the chairman of this constituency.
Whoa.
I remain on the ground. And who knows what come out of that. I say no more of that. But I'm going nowhere. So any labor who thinks that little video can get rid of me, I remain here. We're going to remain here and work hard until the victory and the PNP is returned to Northern Carolina. Only this morning they sent somebody to the face of the wall. What they broke our office. The night before election they broke Comrade Mark Campbell office where we meet sometimes. Right? We see the emergence of a kind of nasty politics
Yes.
Right?
Start already.
Under this woman what called over.
Yes.
And that makes them was on attack.
Gonna talk.
Right? I have run here 3 times as JLP. And we have never seen that kind of acrimony and nasty politics, even when I was running against one of them.
Yes, yes.
We had harmony. We ran a good campaign. Nobody not throw nobody flyer. Nobody not burn nobody house. Right? But understand, nobody is going to deny us.
Something wrong with me, or every time Dennis Meadows opened his mouth, ever since that video came out. Somebody close Dennis Meadows' mouth, please. Every time Dennis Meadows opened his mouth, or is it me, the situation gets worse. Trying to dig yourself out of a hole, Dennis Meadows, with voluntary information. Information that if you said it on the campaign, I beg someone to go and dig them up. Let us hear Dennis Meadows talking about these allegations he's making now in public. I wonder if those were issues that Dennis Meadows, Georgia Dennis, good evening and welcome. I wonder if those were issues that Dennis Meadows dealt with on the election campaign. I wonder if any of these issues that Dennis Meadows, any of these allegations of corruption, vote buying, money laundering, that Dennis Meadows is alleging. I wonder if Dennis Meadows spoke to the Chilani police about any of this. Or Dennis Meadows just continuing the fluff. Continuing the fluff to cover his embarrassment, his defeat, his self-defeat, rather. Every time Dennis Meadows open his mouth, plead the fifth, Beulah says, and shut the hell up. Dennis Meadows. Plead the fifth and shut the hell up, because every time Dennis Meadows' mouth open, something comes out of it that causes more questions. Dennis Meadows has alleged several criminal actions involving the Chilani Parish Council. Did you all hear the cheerleaders in the last speech? Did you all hear the many cheerleaders behind Dennis Meadows? Did you all hear those many cheerleaders, female, behind Dennis Meadows? But listen to this so-called Bakawal dunce businessman who think that every right is protected. The right to life, Mr. Dunce, is not a protected right. It's a qualified right. The right to life is not a protected right. It's a qualified right. In law, you can lose your life justifiably by being in a shootout with the police and is being shot dead. That doesn't protect you and the right to life thing. You could be sentenced to death by a court. So the right to life, Mr. Dunce, is not a protected right, Colin Jones. It's a qualified right, Barbara Allen. So Dennis Meadows' free speech comes with responsibility. Dennis Meadows' free speech comes with responsibility. No country, Mr. So-and-so. Democracy, dictator, autocracy, or theocracy. None of them, sir, will allow your free speech that incite crime and violence. None of them will allow it. So when you jump out here and I use American free speech, understand rights and whether they are qualifying or they are protected, it rather make a difference.
Dennis Meadows, there is no vote, there is no PNP, there is no Trelawney seat for PNP. I never care about politics until Dennis Meadows come to Trelawney and saying we run for PNP. Yeah. You understand? Dennis Meadows is a man who reach out to the people and listen to the people and even though he don't have the money to give to the people
I wonder, just a question, I wonder if this would be one of the businessmen that would change a lot of those checks that Mr. Meadows is talking about. It's just a wonder, Mr. Meadows.
Oh, Dennis Meadows, there is no vote, there is no PNP, there is no Trelawney seat for PNP. I never care about politics until Dennis Meadows come to Trelawney and saying we run for PNP. Yeah. You understand? Dennis Meadows is a man who reach out to the people and listen to the people and even though he don't have the money to give to the people at the moment, he come and he listen and him do and can do and him beg and try to help who him can help. You know, me no need anything from Dennis Meadows. I'm a businessman. But listen what me I say. Dennis Meadows know how politics is and he's not in the quote-unquote politics thing what we used to from back in the days. He's dealing with the things that the people want or him to deal with. The People's National Party is what him a try to reinstate in Trelawney so that we can get back with seat the way how we used to have with seat. No, if there is no Dennis Meadows, there is no vote, there is no PNP, there is no Trelawney seat for PNP. You understand what I'm saying? And this is what I'm saying. Dennis Meadows has made a mistake and he has admitted and apologized for his mistake. I see Donald Trump is a 90 indictment and he's still running for the president for the most powerful country in the world. People are doing things and all he's saying that, listen, we might not be able to stop you guys from doing what you're doing, but don't buy no gun with it. You understand? Use it and take care of your family because he's not able to stop them. And America is trying to stop them, but America is not trying to stop the things that are happening in America because the same thing is happening inside of America and America cannot do anything about it. So I don't see why we should penalize our own choice of candidate because he speaks something about, and I mean, let's look at it. America promotes freedom of speech to the highest level. In other words, they make it an amendment in their country that each person have the right to speak whatever is on their mind. He did not tell anybody to go out and chop. He never tell nobody to go out and scam. He never tell nobody, but he said, listen, if that is what you're doing, don't use the money to commit further crime. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't see why so much pressure. And Mr. Mark Golin, listen, I have a lot of respect for you. A lot of respect for you. And I enter this thing here because Dennis Meadows said, listen, I'm going to support Mark. You understand? And
I wonder if you enter this thing so because you benefit from hope of the scamming check them. Dunceness can be measured when certain Jamaicans speak. Dunceness can be measured when certain Jamaicans speak. We're not America. We are Jamaica. Our democracy is quite different to the American Republican system and how they exercise the republic system and how they exercise democracy. Don't mix the thing up. In America, you have rights. In Jamaica, we have rights too. Whereas Britain, we have freedom. What makes that difference is a written codified constitution in one set of documents that is the supreme law for your land. and that gave rights to you within that document. Whereas in Britain, we have what is called freedom. We don't have rights. Freedom. If the thing is wrong, not wrong, or if the law doesn't prohibit us from doing a thing, we have the right to do it. Even though we have human rights in this country, because of our ratification of the Human Rights Convention, it is not a protected right. Why it is not? Because it's not entrenched in a constitution. It's rights given to us by the British Parliament. Therefore, it's rights that can be amended. It's rights that can be repealed. They can be done away with the Human Rights Act, as it is an active debate in this country since Brexit to repeal it, or we do it with a Bill of Rights Act. However, in Britain, we haven't got protected rights as what would come in the Jamaican Constitution or the American Constitution. But rights come on two different, what you call it, I don't know the word to use now. But you have what is called protected rights. That right is protected by the courts, the government, and all public services. They must not violate that right under any circumstances. That is a protected right. You have what is called qualifying rights, which are rights that you must observe. You have a responsibility to do something or not to do something that prohibits that right. So you have the right to free speech. But there's a responsibility that comes to the right with free speech. There's a prohibition on incitement to violence, incitement to hatred, and all of those things. The law on defamation, sir, all of these things or limitation on free speech, therefore makes it a qualifying right. If you defame someone, you cannot be protected under the free speech right. If you incite violence, uprising, insurrection, if you demonstrate illegally, you cannot be protected under the right to freedom of assembly, because your country would have a legislation, a rules around protest, assembly, and demonstration. So rights are not just something to walk and wave, so. And also then create. So stop mixing up Jamaica and America together. Different countries observe rights differently and in different way by different legislative processes. Cousin Marina, how you do? How you do? Good evening and welcome. Wagwan, cuz. I was saying this morning, I know yesterday was an immensely difficult day for the entire family, but I know us, we'll all pull through it. We've been there before many times, so we'll pull through it. But it was quite a difficult day for the family yesterday. Barbara Allen, good evening, and welcome. Stacy. Cousin Myrna, who else has arrived? Carlene Jones, Nerissa, Starboy, Kezia Culture Clothing. Who else? Mary Messenger. Good evening, all, and welcome. Joan Brown, good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Janet Mundi, good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining. Dolores Galloway, good evening and welcome. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. Winston Dawkins, good evening and welcome. Good evening. James, good evening. Thank you all for joining us. So when in our dunce Bangarang, don't mix up Monica Wills, good evening. Don't mix things up where you don't understand. And think so because it's a right. Joan Jackson, good evening and welcome. Joan Jackson is in the UK, is it? Special, good evening and welcome. Don't walk and mix up things to sport defenseless narrative in public where they hold on to Norman Ferguson. Is it Norman Ferguson, sorry. Rather than admitting Dennis Meadows have made a serious blunder and messed up his political chances. It's over, Ketep. Move on, Dennis Meadows. Move on, the defenders of Dennis Meadows. Dennis Meadows, when he was at the, the Firearm License Authority, he didn't leave there in glory. He didn't left the FLA in glory. He left there under a shroud of investigation with referral for determination for prosecution for breaches in public office. But it is important to know from Dennis Meadows. Lennox Reed, good evening and welcome. The names of these people involved in these criminal activities that he has alleged to do with money, the names of the people who are on the check, the people who brought the check to him, the agencies that clear these checks, the political machinery, Mr. Meadows says the money goes back into, the parish council link to those money. There has been so much that Dennis Meadows alleged, and everybody looked sideways like they didn't hear Dennis Meadows, and it didn't happen.
So the statement that went viral, the one that cost you caretakership of North Trelawney, what was going on in your mind when you made that statement, sir?
Good point. It was, quite frankly, a desperate attempt to rescue a campaign that was corruptly awash with cash in terms of monetary inducement, buying votes. And in addition to that, the essence of the whole speech, what you saw in the viral, is really a snippet of what the entire speech was about. The context of the speech was, if politicians chopping you, you must chop them back. That was the essence of it. And I think I went too far in terms of making that point. And consequently, I have to take full responsibility. The issue was about, I started out with a $400,000 check that came to me from the Trelawney Parish Council.
What happened here? Oh, hold on. Let me play the other blunder.
Comrades, the victory in this constituency. I want each of you to be an evangelist to take this out. What I'm about to say.
I will preach it.
I just left the leader's office at a meeting this morning with comrade leader. And he explained to me why he acted. He did have to explain to me because I am a student of politics and we all are.
Yes.
Don't it?
Yes.
And therefore understand that when certain things go wrong,
Yes.
one has to be held accountable in the interest of the party, Jamaica, and the greater good.
Why Dennis Meadows don't understand that he should have stopped this up if him decide to move on? Ronnie Henlon, good evening. JP, good evening and welcome. Why Dennis Meadows? Sharon Pate, good evening. why Dennis Meadows couldn't stop this, but Dennis Meadows went on to give a string of explanation that continuously opening up a deeper can of worm. But let's turn our attention to special guests. Carlton Lovelace, good evening and welcome. Let's turn our attention to the special guest, Anthony R. Good evening, how are you? How are you doing, mate? Good evening. Let's turn our attention to special guests. Minister the man saying I want an apology from you. Apology not accepted, Minister of Blunder. Apology not accepted. I want to give legal advice to Mr. Morgan tonight. I want to be your free attorney, Mr. Morgan. Minister Bagamouth missing in action. Minister hiding under the bushel after being battered by a junior political wildebeest. Minister Mike, drop out of your hand. Minister Mike, drop out of your hand. Minister had gone in silence. Minister of confusion and defamation. Minister hobnob in public. Apology not accepted, Minister. Minister, your apology not accepted. We don't want the ape on it tonight. Your apology, Minister, not accepted. We want damages. In law, it is called damages. We don't say money. Damages. The man said, Minister, so some out. We're going to turn you upside down and shake your pocket. Paper or silver, Minister? Paper or silver? Do you want some free advice? May I go get? Whether you want it or not tonight, you have to take it because I told you, the government. Whether I want to hear it before or not, I'm coming bearing bad news. A minister of information. After coming out of an election week, battered, wielded and thrown about the place politically, he's now been buckled by a lawsuit. Is there any more lawsuit to come for the minister of blunder? Will there be more lawsuits coming for the minister of blunder? Yes, beat and teach. Damages equal money. Will there be any more lawsuits coming for the minister of blunder? Will anybody else affix a padlock to Minister Blunder's mouth? Because the minister makes several blunders during the election campaign. The minister told you that as long as he's an MP, this young man will never win a seat. And this, your minister, is being picked up politically and is thrown about the place and literally is nowhere to be seen. He is nowhere to be seen since the election. No explanation from your Minister of Information. Just gone so. Gone with the wind, Minister. Minister gone with the wind. Nothing. He just gone in a so silence. No information. No clarification, no retraction, no, nothing at all. Minister Sosamote just gone with the wind.
The persons who you find Maypen today are comrades from Woodall, comrades from Moko, and several other places. They could not mobilize enough people from Moko. What it says to you is that the people of Moko do not believe in Romain Morris. Romain Morris has crossed the floor, which is his right. But I will say to you as Member of Parliament, he will never win Moko Division as long as I'm a Member of Parliament, and I put that down.
Nesta still a walk round and look for when put that down. Regispen, good evening and welcome. Gibson, good evening and welcome. Nesta Morgan still a walk round. A search for which part him put on. Say Romain Morris can't win as long as him a MP. So since Romain Morrison win, embarrassingly, Nesta Morgan is under a cloud of silence and to be washed by a lawsuit. How do you think it will look, Mr. Morgan, coming out of a weak election? The man saying he want money, you know. The man saying I want an apology. The man saying he want damages. He don't want an apology. How do you think it's going to look for an information minister? Busted mouth information minister. Coming out of an election, weak, silenced, and battered, is going to stand up, going into a general election with a defamation battle in the courts. Now, here's the thing, Mr. Morgan. To save your political credibility and your political life, this is my advice. Settle, ask him how much you want. Name your price, and we will settle. Plus, Mr. Morgan, legal fees. I wonder if there's any more lawsuit. Those on those platforms who provide Nesta an audience to blunder, why are you so darn silent? Under the cloak of darkness and silence, the JLP vloggers has gone. Where are they? Where are the platforms for Minister Blunder to go and spout and boast of his successes at the poll because of the successes of this government? Michelle Johnson, good evening and welcome. Joan Jackson, good evening and welcome. Good evening, good evening. Good evening all. Thank you for joining us. Good evening and welcome. Empty platform. Provision of blunder platform. Can you not provide an interview for the Minister of Information? Maybe he wouldn't come to interview platforms like these who would want to ask serious questions, Carlos Singh. But the information minister should go on his Bagawire platforms to inform us of the outcome of the election and respond to the non-accepted apology and the pursuit for damages. What a bangarang on this government, Valerie Dennis. Good evening and welcome. Delpha Campbell, good evening. Good evening and welcome. What a bangarang on this government coming out of a weak election. Information minister bottled in lawsuit. A civil service giving the government a 10 days ultimatum. Come to the negotiation table, let's sort out this salary problem. given that you have given yourself 300%, Colleen Jones says. A government that is about to be toppled, a weak back foot. Hey, we catch you. We catch you weak. Turn your back to it. We catch you weak with your back turned. Country girl, good evening and welcome. We catch you weak government. Jamaica Labour Party. With your back turned. So we're going to push you further in a corner. We're going to push up your back to the wall because with 30,000 strong, all heap of vote there so for the national election. We're going to back you in a corner. I wonder what will it be like for this government going forward? Is the Labour Party considering the removal of Andrew Holness? Is it safe for the Jamaica Labour Party and those with a lot of political life and great political ambitions is willing to take the risk of going to a general election with Andrew Holness, which has been bound to be toppled and be harmed by the political wildebeest that Mount Golden has become, and will no doubt build on this great achievement and momentum into what will be the most stinging general election we will ever have in this country. It will be mini-size, euphorically, to the 1980 general election. Because not that the country political life hangs in the balance, the life of the nation hangs in the balance of the election, but the result of the local government election also will not be resolved until we meet the Jamaica Labour Party round Cajun Corner in September 2025. It's bound to happen, Prime Minister. And it's not a good start for you 15 months from the election. Is it safe for the Jamaica Labour Party candidates at the national level, Joseph Hewitt? Is it safe for Minister Apology come next general election? Is it safe for Juliet Holness, given that feather have been toppled? Is it safe for Juliet Holness, given that we are probably about to hear more about the KSMC planning permission debacle? Will the People's National Party led KSMC put charges on Mark Barnett? Because DPP Dunce said, time has passed for NEPA and myself, but the KSMC, time has not passed for them. Will the People's National Party, will the KSMC-led People's National Party impose fine on Mark Barnett, or will they prosecute him for breaches of the Planning Permission Act? Will the KSMC-led, People's National Party-led, is going to show us that we are going to hold them to account? But please do, Nestor Morgan, hurry up and settle. Hurry up and settle. And don't negotiate the price. Just ask how much you want to settle for Brittany Lyon. How much? Name your price. Name your price, Minister Morgan. Tell Mr. Rattigan to name his price. Don't go into any negotiation. Just settle for what Mr. Rattigan wants, plus legal fees, Minister. Because if you ever embark on this defamation battle, you're bound to fail not only in the courts, Mr. Morgan, but also at the polls come September 2025. Because you will be going into the election weaker, Mr. Morgan. Tantamount weaker, Mr. Morgan. If you think it bad now, Mr. Morgan, come closer to the general election, especially Mr. Morgan, Herbert Tuesland. If you decide to fight a defamation battle, it will be much badder for you. If you think it bad now, it will be much badder going into a general election. Buckled in a defamation lawsuit, being weakened at the local election. Lost a division in your constituency, Mr. Morgan. A whole kerfuffle of votes, Mr. Morgan. That you, Information Minister, Bagamouth, Rena, good evening and welcome, is depending on for the general election. Can you see how the minister is unable, dry as the egg is, to wash it off his face and come back to the public? We paid you, minister. This corporation called Jamaica, we pay you, the Minister of Information, to administer our information services and to give credible and correct information. I wonder if Mr. Rattigan is going to go after those empty platforms. I wonder if Mr. Rattigan is going to go after empty platform as well. Providence for Bagamouth narrative. I wonder if Mr. Rattigan is going to go after the platform as well, like he has gone after Information Minister Sosa Mouth. But my advice to you, Mr. Morgan, settle for whatever Mr. Rattigan wants, plus legal fee. You don't have to pay me for this free advice. Just do it. Just do it, Mr. Morgan. If you want to be saved a little, if you want to heal some of the bruise, use money, Mr. Morgan. We're coming into your pocket. The place that hurts for these bag of wires is their pocket. They hate when you hit them in their pocket. Does anyone else wants to go after the Information Minister? Has the Information Minister defamed anyone else's character or reputation in public? There's money to gain from a weak Information Minister. He is under a pressure at the moment to settle, Mr. Information Minister. To save your political skin after losing countless of votes that you're depending on to win your seat. The seat that hangs thinly in the balance, Mr. Morgan. Marine Cummins, good evening and welcome. Cunningham, sorry. A seat that is hanging the balance at the next poll, Minister, because you have lost a division. You have lost a division that you sworn by, that you could not have lost it because this man doesn't have the political strategy political know-about and credibility to jump ship from my management and has gone over to the People's National Party and has brought his votes over with him. Votes, Mr. Morgan, that has weakened your constituency. Lawsuit, Mr. Morgan. I wonder if the Prime Minister is going to do any reshuffling of the cabinet, or he's just going to give somebody the responsibility for works, because the Prime Minister don't love to give portfolio to department where there's money or agencies where there are accountabilities. Everything has to lap up in the Prime Minister office. Ministry of Works, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of this, Ministry of that, Housing Trust, Electoral Commission, the Political Ombudsman Office. John, everything. John, good morning and welcome. Good night and welcome. All of them something there, cut up in the Prime Minister office. And none don't see the dictatorial regime. When a Prime Minister can run so much ministry out of his office, can have so many agencies in his office, none don't see the clear dictatorship. Nobody don't see the Edwin Johnson, good night and welcome. Nobody don't see the clear control over money and accountability in our country by one family. None of you all see the control over our government and our parliament by the one family? Or am I just crazy and busybody and love mind people business? Abena, how are you? Good evening and welcome. Is it that me too busybody and love mind people business? Why nobody seem to see the dictatorship that our country has become, the ownership that our country has become to family, the hereditaryism in our politics, the boys' club ism in our politics, the patriarchal ism in our politics. Don't you think the time has come, given this constitutional review that is going on, for us as the people, not the administrator of the government, us the people, the government. I'm not talking about the administrator now, Holness and his clique of Bangarang. Don't you think the time has come for us to look at our political system, look at what is working and develop on it? Look at what is not working and be done away with it. Look at what is outdated and develop it. This system is not working. It is not working. We, the people, need to review the system. It is not working. Our voter turnout, every political cycle, keeps going south, going down. There's a lack of engagement because of one, political hereditary, political corruption, lack of political will, where politicians only promise you and never do it. Lack of political education. Because you don't know better, you just stick to the hereditaryism and the tribalism of politics. We don't want to be educated and engage in policies that would help your community to develop, because you're engaged and you're demanding that the infrastructures and the services in your community, your parish, your country, by extension, is modernized and developed. We want to know the illicit six, We are not going to the general election, Prime Minister. It wouldn't be fair, people of Jamaica, to go to the general election with 6 criminals in our parliament. The Prime Minister must be put under pressure, not just by the People's National Party, but by the country at large, to release who those illicit 6 are. Is the Prime Minister one of the illicit 6? Is the wife of the Prime Minister one of the illicit 6? Is James Robertson one of the illicit 6? Who else could the other 3 illicit 6 be? We need to know. We need to know before we go to the general election. And Mark Golden must start walking around the country, ringing, not ring bell like a rolling car, knocking drums and sound the alarm and tell the country, you must demand that before you go to the poll, you want to know which of your political representatives are criminals, which of your political representatives have illicitly enriched themselves. We should also ask the Prime Minister to reshuffle the cabinet, remove his wife from Speaker of the House, appoint another of his MP as Minister of as Speaker of the House. But will that make a difference? Is Darrell Vaz, Bobby Montague, and Ann Vaz the other 3 illicit 6? We want to know. We, the people, were told by the Integrity Commission that 6 of you are involved in enriching yourself illicitly out of our public purse. Our public purse with 1.7 trillion has gone missing at local government, at central government, and over 100 million has gone missing at local government. We want to know. We want to know about those money and who those illicit 6 are. We want to also know if the Prime Minister, if the weak Prime Minister coming out of this general election, if a weak Prime Minister, Elaine Campbell, good evening and welcome, coming out of this general election, is going to continue pushback on the Auditor General requests, Forever Young, good evening, for further documentation. Will the Prime Minister, a weak Prime Minister, a battered Prime Minister, coming out of the local government election, will the Prime Minister be able to submit his 3 years late disclosure? And will he be able to support the source of his funds and have his declaration be verified Prime Minister. I wonder if the Prime Minister and the other members of the Jamaica Labour Party will be signing the code of conduct before we embark on Prime Minister, a long awaited general election campaign. Bangarang not start hit you yet. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. This is where Global TV ends tonight. Thank you all very much for your support. Make sure before you go, you hit the like button, share this link in your WhatsApp group, share it on your Facebook page. If you have not yet, if you're not following my Facebook page, please follow me on Global TV on Facebook. This is where I will post news articles as I come across them so you can read and such alike and so forth. So if you're not yet following my Facebook page, please do follow me on Facebook as well, because that is where I would do my posting throughout the days if I want to post articles for you to read, or if there's a breaking headline in any article and I need to share it. That's where I would share it. So please do follow my Facebook page also. But thank you always very much for your continuous support to this program. Remember to like and share before you go. If you're new to the program and you're a silent listener and you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe to the program so you can know when we put out a broadcast. This was the People's Point of View. Thank you very much for being here this evening. It was amazing to have your company and to be of company with you. Thank you all very much, and we will be back tomorrow.